Arif and Çeku are a hard-working couple who own a carpet shop in Istanbul. One day, Arif's old friend, Logar, along with his assistant, comes to the shop and reveals that he has discovered something crazy in a nearby place. However, when they reach the place, Logar apprehends Arif and ties him up. It turns out, this was all his plan to steal Arif's wife. Moreover, the object which he was referring to is actually a time machine. Using some advanced mechanism, the evil Logar then transforms into an Arif lookalike, and reveals his plan to reproduce with Çeku. When the real Arif tries to smack talk, Logar's assistant activates the time machine and sends him 1 million years back in time. Second after, Arif arrives in the Cretaceous period, where the dinosaurs are still active. As he wanders around the place in horror, he stumbles across some apes, who are the first of their kind and are yet to evolve. Left with no choice, Arif starts living with them and tries to educate them, hoping they'll evolve. Days turn into months and the winter season arrives. When Arif goes to relieve himself, his pee instantly freezes, indicating that the temperatures are equivalent to the present-day North Pole. With nothing else to do, Arif has made a structure out of the frozen piecicles. Unfortunately, even after several months of intense teaching, the apes haven't shown any signs of progress. This makes Arif realize that he cannot make it back home if he continues to live with these clueless apes. Therefore, he ventures out on his own into the forest in search of human civilization. Along the way, he encounters a ferocious T-Rex who roars at him. Arif is initially frightened, but he soon realizes that the dinosaur is actually a mother and she is just trying to protect her offspring's eggs. Seeing this, Arif adopts a friendly approach and backs off the dinosaur's territory. The T-Rex appreciates his gesture and gives him a huge honey nest as a parting gift. Arif happily accepts it, but only to realize that he has now angered a huge bee. The bee stings him and continues to chase him, prompting him to run for his life. Arif eventually manages to shake off the bee by hiding behind a tree, but soon starts to get dizzy from the sting and eventually falls to the ground. As his eyes close shut, he notices 2 cavemen on the tree, but before he could react, the primitive men tranquilize him. Later, Arif gains consciousness inside a cave surrounded by a bunch of cavemen chanting strange prayers. It turns out they are afraid of Arif as he is a stranger and they plan to kill him. Luckily, Arif can speak their language and he convinces the leader of the tribe, Demi, that he is from the future and is not a threat to them. Suddenly, a man announces that the Erogens have arrived. It turns out Erogens are a separate tribe led by a savage named Karga, and they have been oppressing Demi's tribe for quite some time. During each visit, the Erogens torment the villagers and seize their food and tools. This time, Karga is here to take 3 of the strongest cavemen for a special ritual. Unfortunately, Arif is shortlisted as one of them. When he tries to refuse, Karga shoots him with a tranquilizer, knocks him unconscious, and then takes him to his village. On the way, one of the savages named Tasso has an accident. He hits his head on a stone and falls down from his horse, breaking his arm in the process. As he cries in pain, Karga proceeds to bury Tasso as if he is dead. Arif, who is already woken up, is stunned and he immediately intervenes. He tells the savages that Tasso is not dead, but he has only fractured his arm. He then makes a makeshift cast for his broken arm. Surprisingly, Tasso can now feel his arm again, and he thanks Arif for saving his life. Once they reach the village, it's revealed that the place is actually led by Karga's nephew, Kaalya, who is also Tasso's father. The father and son catch up and Karga asks Tasso about the handmade mask he found in Tasso's room. Tasso proudly reveals that he made it from a tree's bark, but this upsets Kaalya as he wants his son to be a savage warrior, not an artist. Kaalya then narrates an incident from his childhood that claimed his father, Kumo's life. One day, a strange circular spaceship descended from the sky carrying 2 strange visitors. They gave Kumo a ball as a gift and got back into their spaceship. Unfortunately, an overexcited Kumo ran after them to bid goodbye, and in the process, he got burned to death by the spaceship's engine. Ever since then, Kaalya has hated new things and inventions. And since he believes that his father is in heaven, he has built an extremely tall tower. Many people have tried to climb the tower to bring Kumo back, but none have succeeded or survived. It turns out Karga brought the 3 strong men from Demi's tribe to send them up the tower. However, Arif volunteers to go by himself, to everyone's surprise. He slowly climbs the tower and eventually manages to reach the top. There, he encounters a strange man who he assumes to be Kumo. Arif plans to take the man back to the ground but ends up frightening him, causing him to fall to his death. Upset, Arif slowly starts descending, and when he reaches the ground, the Erogen tribe is stunned to see someone return alive from the tower. They erupt in joy, making the situation somewhat joyous. Kaalya is upset that Arif couldn't bring his father back, but nevertheless, he forgives him. Tasso is also impressed by Arif's gallantry and he starts drawing his picture on a stone. Arif compliments his craft, and Tasso gives him a rare glimpse of his collection. There, Arif notices a hidden drawing of a girl named Mimi from the other village. It turns out Tasso has a major crush on her. This reminds Arif of his beloved wife Cheku, and he pleads with Tasso to supply all the tools available, so that he can return to his time. Tasso calls it impossible as his father Kaalia collects all equipment and locks them in a cave, forbidding everyone from using them. However, when Arif promises to set Tasso up with Mimi, he finally agrees to help acquire those tools. Later that night, Tasso and Arif sneak into the cave in search of tools. Unfortunately, they are soon caught by Karga, who takes the two to Kaalia. As expected, the ruler of the village is disappointed that his son has become a thief, and quickly disowns him. Because of this, an upset Tasso leaves the village with Arif. In the next scene, the two wander around the forest until they come across Mimi and her friends bathing in a river. Mimi is hostile to Tasso because of his background, but Arif changes her perception by showing her a lovely woman's tattoo that Tasso has made on his back. The group then returns back to Dimi's village, and Arif reveals his plan to start a new civilization. He tells Dimi about the thousands of useful gadgets in Kaalia's cave and asks for his help in stealing them. Excited with the prospect of having modern tools and technology, Dimi and his people immediately get on board with the plan. The following night, Arif and Tasso again infiltrate Kaalia's cave and load all the necessary tools into a cartwheel. Then, the villagers help them carry the cartwheel back to the village. In no time, Arif begins making all of the necessary inventions that have helped mankind evolve. And over the course of the next few months, everyone in the village is accustomed to the new privileges. Because of Arif, they have evolved several thousand years faster, making life very easy for them. The women can now cook food and the children go to school. Arif is declared the minister of the village, but he's not happy as he hasn't noticed any change in his people's intelligence. On the other hand, Kaalia eventually finds out that the cave has been robbed by Arif and Tasso. Furious, he sends his uncle Karga to kill them, but when the latter arrives at the village, he is taken aback to see all the new inventions. He immediately demands that they be handed to him. However, Arif mocks and humiliates him in front of his people. This infuriates Karga, and he promises to come back with his army to take revenge. One day, Arif takes Tasso, Mimi and others on a picnic to a nearby jungle. Sadly, when they return, they find the entire village ransacked. It turns out the Erogens took everything from the village. Fed up with these feuds, Arif approaches Kaalia and proposes a solution: a 6-man football game. If his team wins, Kaalia will have to return all the equipment that he stole earlier, and if Arif were to lose, he will build Kaalia a tower, which will be long enough to retrieve his missing father. Surprisingly, Kaalia agrees without hesitation. It's then revealed that the Erogens have been playing ball games in memory of his late father, Kumo, whose special ball has become somewhat of a treasure. Hence, Kaalia has no problem whatsoever in making a team. He picks 6 of the fiercest, fittest, and strongest men for the big occasion. On the other hand, Arif also starts looking for players. But unfortunately for him, no one has even heard of the term football. Just then, Mimi reveals that there's a former Erogen goalkeeper named Kuhara in the village. It turns out Kuhara retired from football after he conceded 8 goals in one match, just like Barcelona did against Bayern. Arif tries to convince him to play, but he refuses. Seeing this, Dimi steps up to be the goalkeeper of the team. Meanwhile, Arif and Tasso become the forward strikers, and the rest of the team is made up of other random villagers. With this, Arif and his team start undergoing gruesome training while Mimi and other women prepare the team's football jerseys. And just after a few days, Arif FC gets the hang of the game and starts playing elegantly. Soon, the important day arrives. Everyone's pumped about the game, but unfortunately, the Erogens start dominating right from the get-go. They easily outmuscle their opponents and score 4 spectacular goals. But surprisingly, just before the half-time, a player from Arif FC manages to pull one back. He celebrates so violently that he ends up running into the nearby flames. In the half-time discussion, a worried Arif reveals that he is actually an alien from another planet, who has been living on Earth because of the good food here. In fact, he has some superpowers, which can easily turn the game in their favor. Arif also mentions that he didn't use the powers up until now because he feared hurting someone. But now that his team's victory is on the line, he will have to become an alien. Surprisingly, instead of hiding such a big fact from them, the villagers get intrigued and start encouraging him to showcase his best performance. Soon the second half begins, and Arif, using his powers, completely dominates the play. With his supernatural acrobatics and impeccable vision, he leads his team to score 3 goals, hence tying the game at 4-4. In the heat of the game, Tasso gets into a fight with one of the Erogens, resulting in a penalty for them. Dimi saves the penalty, but his hands get injured and he is rendered unfit to play. Now, with no goalkeeper in the roster, Kohara steps forward and volunteers to play. He soon turns into a brick wall and saves everything that is thrown his way. At last, with only seconds remaining, Arif leaps in the air and launches a ferocious shot, which ends up being the winning goal. The village erupts in cheers and Kaalia also applauds the opposition team. He mentions that he will keep his part of the deal and stay away from the villagers from now on, but despite the victory, Arif is sad. He believes that Logar has already taken his wife, Cheku, hostage. Hence, he plans to leave the village and wander off once and for all. Before leaving, he gifts his watch to Tasso and his engagement ring to Mimi. Suddenly, a bright flash appears and Cheku appears out of thin air. Arif is elated and puzzled to see his wife. Cheku then reveals that after Arif left with Logar, she got on the internet and learned about a million-year-old ring and watch that was found in a cave by a group of archaeologists. When Cheku researched more about the ring and watch, she realized that they were in fact Arif's. She then connected all the dots and deduced that the Arif in front of her was an imposter Logar. Hence, she held him at gunpoint and interrogated him about her husband's location. At last, she operated Logar's time machine to arrive here. Shortly after, the couple bid farewell to all the villagers and return back to their timeline. And as soon as they reach home, they send Logar to the primitive village. At first, the villagers assume that he is Arif, and try talking to him politely, but when the arrogant Logar starts hurling obscenities, they realize he's an imposter. To make matters worse, Kaalia and the others also learn that it was Logar's spaceship that came to their village many years back and killed Kumo. Seeing the angry mob, Logar finally starts panicking and requests the people to leave him alone, but no one listens to him. The movie ends as the villagers slowly approach Logar to apprehend him, but before that, a T-Rex pops up out of nowhere and gobbles him up.